This week on Front End Fire, is founding sponsor the new AI Aquahire? Is Redact replacing React? And Claude is set to get faster thanks to a deal with SpaceX. It is a jam-packed episode, so let's get into it. Hey everybody. Welcome to another episode of Front End Fire, the weekly web development podcast that helps you stay up to date with the latest and the greatest in the front end world. I'm your host today, Paige Niedringhouse, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Jack Harrington.
Hello.
And TJ Vantol.
Hey everybody.
And we have some interesting and fun news to talk about today, so let's get right into it. All right. I think that the headline of "Is Redact replacing React" deserves top billing for this show. So, Jack, tell us more.
Yeah, so Tanner Lindsley, famously one of the key people behind Tanstack.com, basically did an over the weekend experiment in can we actually redo React, essentially? Can we go and take the existing React API and create what people are calling a projection of it as a new library? And I don't know about the whole concept of projection and all that, but it actually turned out to be a fascinating experiment. Basically, what it does is it takes like that kind of core functionality of React, aside from the things the thread model and stuff like that, and then implements just on those, and it creates a much, much smaller library that actually turns out to be a lot faster. So turns out he was able to bring TannerLindsley.com over onto it, and it works pretty seamlessly. You still get to import React and all that, but it's just a Vite extension where you bring in this Redact, which I was joking around should be called like Freeact maybe. And so it's interesting for a couple of reasons. One, technically, obviously interesting in that, yes, it can be done, and that's cool. And then the other thing is, have we gotten to the point in the community where we can accept these kind of experiments as just experiments anymore? And so in his blog post where he talks about this on TannerLindsley.com, basically the last third of it is about I released this as a library simply because I need to be able to have it as a library to run my own stuff. You can use it if you want, but it's not going to be something that we're going to actively market, not something we're going to push. So it's not a real replacement per se, but it's a true experiment. And the question is, can we actually, as a community, just kind of handle that? Okay, that's a thing and exists. And it's a good learning.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, this is not a new question we've had to ask ourselves. I feel like the origin of this podcast is this random thing good or usable or appropriate for your use case? So that's as old as time in the front end world. But I feel the AI revolution has fundamentally changed this a little bit, just because the barrier to creating something like this is so much less. Yeah. So in this case, it sounds like Tanner just got going on a weekend, fired up his AI agent of choice, and here we go. We got a React replacement, exactly. Whereas previously it would have been a team and whatever effort that goes into this. Right. And we've also covered this before with Cloudflare creating a replacement of Next.js, and then they're building a new WordPress. And so this is why it's difficult, because there are some efforts where Cloudflare really wants us to take their effort with WordPress very seriously. And it's hard to differentiate between things like that and things that are truly meant to just be quick experiments that are tossed out there.
Yeah.
And I don't really know the answer yet to how we're supposed to, other than on a case-by-case basis, which is what we've always had to do.
Right. I mean, even when people stamp across the top of their project, "This is deprecated, this is only for me, I'm not supporting this for the wider community," still the pull requests flood in, the GitHub issues get started, people start talking about it on Reddit or Hacker News or wherever, And suddenly you've become an open source maintainer, even though you explicitly said you didn't want to be.
You're right. So can we do that? I don't know. We'll have to see. I certainly hope we can. I certainly, because I love these kind of experiments, actually. Like, I love this kind
same.
of stuff. And I would love that the community is mature enough to be like, okay, that's like a little scientific finding, that doesn't need to, change the world. You don't need to
Yeah.
port to that. And it also interesting that he tried Preact, actually. If you're sitting on the other end of the screaming, well, what about Preact? Yeah, he tried it, and turns out that it has diverged enough from where React was before, I guess, 19, that no, it's not as easy as a drop-in replacement, particularly that the use hook doesn't have the same semantics and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
I think for the people watching this, listening to this, my recommendation would be same as always. Unless you have a really strong reason to jump on something new like this, you can pretty safely let it cook for a little bit and have the community go over it and check in. If there's good ideas there, eventually that'll keep coming up in conversations and on podcasts and in videos like this. But for your production applications, for your production jobs, it can be fun to experiment with, build a little side project, do what Tanner did, spend a weekend messing around with this stuff. Absolutely. But with any of this sort of vibe coded or whatever, we need a better term for these sort of like AI generated quick experiment projects. Projections is not a good name.
No,
I don't know.
Yeah, projection is like something you get out of a database, right? Like that's when you create like a materialized view.
Yeah, it doesn't tell me anything. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also think vibe coded implies it was just kind of like somebody just threw in one prompt. But in this case, clearly the fact that Tanner did this and with the knowledge Tanner has, this is higher quality than if, like, for example, I went and typed into a prompt like, I want a React replacement. I'm positive he knew how to more intelligently approach this problem. So I don't want to necessarily write it off as just some vibe coded slop either. It's kind of sits somewhere in between.
Yes, I was just about to say vibe coded brings on connotations of slop immediately.
Yes.
But it's actually kind of cool. And I tried this on a site that I was building, and it just seamlessly worked and no problem, which is actually really cool. But you can actually like turn on and off specific features of React in the Vite extension, which I thought was kind of cool, and like even customize the payload size further for your application if you don't need things like memo. And interestingly, it does actually support RSCs. Who knew?
Impressive.
Yeah. There you go.
But if you are a VC listening to this, go ahead and reach out to Tanner. I'm sure he wants some money thrown at it.
VC world.
All right. That's very cool. I'll be interested to hear if it evolves or if Tanner decides to take it further. But TJ, what do you have for us for news this week?
Well, Anthropic is back in the news again. And if you are a Claude user, you've probably noticed over the last handful of months that they've had some infrastructure and speed issues. At least I've definitely noticed this as I'm a pretty heavy Claude user, and it just randomly at times just goes down for a handful of hours or stops responding or what case. So in the news this week is, quote, from the Anthropic blog, quote, we've agreed to a partnership with SpaceX that will substantially increase our compute capacity. This, along with other recent compute deals, means we've been able to increase our usage limits for Claude Code in the Claude API. The following 3 changes, all effective today, are aimed at improving the experience of using Claude for our most dedicated customers. So they're doubling Claude Code's 5-hour rate limits for Pro, Max, Team, and seat-based enterprise plans. They're removing peak hour limit reduction on Claude Code for Pro and Max accounts, and they've raised their API rate limits considerably for Claude Opus models. And considerably is like 10x. It's significant amount of increase.
Nice.
And this is all possible because, per their blog again, quote, we've signed an agreement with SpaceX to use all of the compute capacity at their Colossus 1 data center. This gives us access to more than 300 megawatts of new capacity, which is over 220,000 NVIDIA GPUs within the month. So Yeah.
Wow.
Well, this came up last episode too when we talked about XAI's dealings with Cursor and whatnot,
Yeah.
that XAI built this mammoth facility in Memphis and was severely underutilizing it. And apparently, this is one way they found of what to do with it. They had GPUs, Anthropic needed GPUs, and here we are.
Yeah. So I guess Cursor and Anthropic are going to have to battle it out now for XAI's GPUs.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, this is just for their Colossus 1 center. They also, on SpaceX's and XAI side, they said that they'll be using the Colossus 2 center that they also have in the works there. So they've got capacity to spare. And some of that is because the XAI's had mass people leaving XI in droves. So they've had those struggles to deal with, which I guess at least frees up some capacity for them to sign some presumably very large monetary deal with Anthropic to make this happen.
Wow. Interesting.
Okay.
SpaceX is really making news these last few weeks.
Yeah, and I don't think we have any updates on the Cursor stuff. At least I haven't heard anything of substance, so I assume that's still in the works.
Yeah, it's old news at this point.
I mean, I think this kind of stuff has to happen at a certain point because this we've talked about this before, this monetary cycle of AI where it's like kind of funny money going after funny money, going after funny money.
Just
and
this
lots of data
cyclical.
centers being built for no customers. And suddenly it's like, oh, well, here's an entire massive colossus, data center that we're just not using. Nobody's using this stuff, so might as well have it. Like, okay, cool.
It's really funny that that's happening, though, because I feel like I hear about other data centers, places that want to build data centers, like in the news constantly. And the communities around them are against it, even though it'll bring in $3 billion worth of investment. And the cities they want it, so they're trying to bring it in. But it's like, sounds like we have some extra capacity for the ones that already exist. So do we really need to build more? Or do we just need to figure out which ones aren't being utilized and maybe funnel some more stuff towards those first?
Well, demand is just up across the board. I mean, we're going to talk about GitHub's issues later in the show. I mean, just AI usage is just causing everything to skyrocket. So I think any capacity that isn't being taken is going to be jumped on. And if the trend lines continue, I don't see demand going down or flatlining anytime soon. So I think that's the push behind these data centers. And it's been funny to watch because, I mean, they're trying to build one in Lansing. So this is in the local news for me. And so, of course, there's local pushback against this. And it's in the case of the Lansing one, and a lot of these companies are now offering to bring out their own power so that they're not using local electrical grid. But then the issue, and this came up in this Memphis center, is that, well, the energy generation you're bringing in can also pollute, and then that is an issue. So a lot of the local pushback is reasonable, even though it does. I mean, I have to imagine the local economy has to be helped by bringing in a facility like this, but there are downsides as well, and that's what makes it so contentious and very newsworthy.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll keep you posted on how much difference that makes for Anthropic and for Claude. But I'm sure that now that they've signed this, even though they're lifting limits and, taking off rates and stuff like that, the prices are going to stay the same. Anthropic's not going to drop any of that.
No, you'll still pay heavily. You'll probably pay more because now you won't have to stop occasionally because you're
right.
Because
it goes down.
High load.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm impressed
all right.
at how quickly they were able to get on top of that. Like, okay, they make a deal, and next day they're like, okay, we've just now got tons more capacity. Like, what?
Yeah, it's always funny. And if you know the history behind, Elon is not a huge fan of Anthropic, just to put that lightly. But apparently, when there's enough money involved, all those problems can somewhat go away.
Well, he's in a court battle right now with Sam Altman and OpenAI, so he doesn't seem to like any of the other AI players in the space.
No, he really doesn't. He's also a very litigious and petty dude too. So I think that's a big part of this also.
I think you've just described the majority of the tech founders that are alive and working today, TJ. Litigious and petty dudes.
Yeah. But he's also like this Memphis data center got built in an extraordinarily short period of time. He kind of moved heaven and earth to make this possible. And was it done in a way that respected the local community? Probably not. I don't know the exact details.
Yeah.
But you got to hand it to the dude for being heads up enough to secure 220,000 NVIDIA GPUs and get them put together in a physical data center in the amount of time he did. So I don't know. Mixed feelings about the dude.
Yeah, because I feel, and one of the reasons that I've been anti-crypto, one of the many reasons I'm anti-crypto, is that you get these, we're going to bring in a data center into some random place that just happens to have a hydro dam nearby, and we're going to create jobs, and they create like one or two jobs, and in the meantime, it's just basically a building just shoveling, heat out, kind of thing. You're like, and doing nothing, and it's starting to feel a little bit like where AI is. It's like, well, what is the mass doing with AI? Well, they're creating AI slop is what they're doing. Like they're using it for like phishing scams and stuff like that. And that's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always hard because I think, to me at least, there's a good chunk of AI usage that is very legitimate and changing the world in a positive way, which, at least in my head, makes it fundamentally different than crypto, which I think that was
any redeeming value.
I don't think there was much redeeming value of that. With AI, is a lot of it going to slop? Well, yeah, but there is some going towards positive things for humanity. I mean, you can compare it to the internet, right? Is most of the internet complete garbage? Yeah,
yes.
Or at least a solid chunk of it. Is most of YouTube nonsense? Yes, but do we get some percentage of it that actually makes the world a better place? Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is easy or that all data centers are good, because it's a very complicated topic, but I do think there is some good in there, and that some good is being done by AI, or at least I try to. That's how I sleep at night.
Yeah, I think we're in a very interesting AI bubble where we're using it for coding and generating stuff and like pushing more things onto the internet. But I think that the really interesting things that are happening with AI are the people who are using it to create jobs that they couldn't have had before, or create businesses that couldn't have existed before, because there just weren't enough people, or it was too tedious for a person to be able to do this in a way that would actually make them money or allow them to have a business that could be sustained like this. And I'll talk more about this in my What's Making Us Happy. But it's interesting, like the little one-person businesses that are getting started that depend on AI to help them do something. But it's actually like, that's just a piece of how the business runs. It's not the business. It's like not an AI product. It's just like AI is reading through this image that I took of books that I bought, and it's helping me list them on eBay and sell them, or, things like that. Like that people could have done it themselves, but it would take too long and it wouldn't make any money. But because they can use AI to do it, they can sell at a much higher volume and actually have a little home business reselling books. That's just one of the examples that I've come across recently, but that's interesting.
That feels good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that one.
All right. So we will move on from data centers. My interesting thing, also AI related, is that Warp is a terminal that we've talked about many times on this podcast before. It's kind of like a fancier terminal. For a long time, it was not open source, but now it is. And the way that it has become open source is because OpenAI is its quote unquote founding sponsor. And what makes this really interesting, or what kind of struck me, and I wonder why there hasn't been more talk about this, is it feels like this is OpenAI trying to compete with Claude Code by not actually building its own CLI, but by buying essentially an existing terminal that already has a decent user base, that has good features, that has all these kind of niceties around it, and was already doing AI stuff, forward stuff, and just like made themselves the main sponsor of it. So what does this mean for Warp? It means that they're building agent first workflows that are powered by something called Oz, which is powered by GPT models. And basically, they said in their little blog post that I linked to is that they need more humans to spec the product and test behavior. That's where they're falling down. The AI is writing their code for them, but they just need more people to actually look at it, try it out, verify that it works the way that they expect it to. And the quote that they used that I kind of found interesting was they said, agents can handle the implementation, and that frees contributors to focus on the higher leveraged work, which is shaping what gets built and making sure it's right. And I wonder if that is actually making sure it's right doesn't feel like the higher leveraged work that people want to be doing.
Like QA.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, we all do it because we can't trust our AIs to reliably do what or have the code work the way that they say it does. But that doesn't feel like the higher leverage work to me. That feels like the QA job that I don't like, but I do anyway because that's what AI wrote my code, so I have to figure out if it works or not. But it's interesting that they're positioning it as like the more important piece now.
Well, but this goes even a bit deeper, but isn't that kind of what our jobs are becoming anyways? Yes. It's tricky because this gets into, is software development even fun anymore when all you're doing is reviewing, you're guiding AI agents and then you're reviewing what AI agents does, and that is your day. So whether or not that's fun or a good thing is a different conversation, but is it a pragmatic way for a tool like this to move forward? Probably, honestly.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, they're a very small team. So now they have the broader community that's opened up to help them push changes and make modifications and come up with these ideas. It just seems like they were maybe a little bit too honest about what they need and why they need more human input.
Well, from OpenAI's perspective too, A, we know they have a lot of money, and B, they seemed really interested in investing in these projects that might be the future of how we do software development. So they're the ones that acquired the creator of OpenClaw, and then Warp and is doing similar things in the sense that the contributing the model to contribute and operate a project at this scale is something that they're really toying with. So OpenAI seems to be really invested in trying to be a part of those sorts of projects, and presumably, like, they have enough money to burn that they can they can throw some money around, and then if something good happens, they're well positioned to leverage it. So with Warp, they talk about how their agentic stuff is going to be using GPT's models as part of this deal. So they'll be getting some good data and feedback from a team that is on the cutting edge of this sort of stuff, and that's pretty material to them as well.
Yeah, hopefully they'll be able to come up with some better like system prompts for this. I mean, with Warp in particular, I noticed that I wasn't really getting the same quality of output that I would with Opus, just because of the harness itself, right? The harness on Claude Code, I think, has a really, really big and good system prompt, around like how to code, and there's a lot of just kind of built up knowledge around that. And that's actually, I think, one of the missing parts here is like I just wasn't getting that same level of output even with the same model with Warp. So yeah, hopefully I would say that this would be something where I would hope to see a collaboration between Warp and OpenAI, where they're like, oh, okay, to get the best out of Codex, you really need to like add on, more system prompting, or maybe that's just built in when they're building out the next Codex model. So I think that's cool. I'm down with that. I do think this is an interesting way to like support open source without like consuming open source,
right?
Or, like just turning it into an acqui-hire.
Yeah.
But I totally feel your, this it's a different conversation entirely about like, is this the fun thing? Is software engineering fun anymore? Which is like a whole just other
Yeah,
conversation.
that's
Yeah, that's definitely a different conversation. But but I guess
Yeah,
to
a conversation so many people are having. I was at a sushi restaurant, one of the sushi boat places, and I'm talking to somebody, over at a consulting company, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm just kind of, like, I'm not burnt out, but I'm just not really enjoying this as much as I used to. And he's like, oh, dude, we should talk. And like every person I talk to is in this same boat of like, I don't know.
what am I
Like,
doing?
the thrill is gone, baby. Like
Yeah.
BB King said,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we can talk about that more later. But just to kind of wrap up, like the things that Warp says are coming down the pipeline now that they've got this new founding sponsor, more model support. So you'll be able to choose from more models. DeepSeek, Kimi, Quen, I think were some of the ones that they mentioned right off the bat. More Warp terminal customization. So if you like having file trees or diff views, or even they called it a full-fledged ADE with agents. I'm not sure what an ADE is versus an IDE. Do either of you?
Agentic development environment.
Maybe something like that. And
Everybody's
Go
coming up
ahead.
with these terms for
Yeah,
this kind of stuff.
I know.
like Cursor switched their home screen to just be like agents and not show code. So I think it's something similar to that it's
Probably
just a place for viewing and maintaining agents and less code focused.
Yeah. And then the last thing that they mentioned, which was kind of funny that they don't have this or haven't until now, is a settings file. Apparently, you cannot just get a settings file like you can for VS Code or whatever,
Really?
and just take it over to a new machine. So,
No kidding.
Yeah, I was shocked that is not a thing, but it wasn't. So you'll have a settings file so you can take your agents and your whatever other programmatic settings you have and move it between devices easily.
That's
right?
hilarious, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Me
Okay.
neither.
Yeah. The
But I
funny thing
guess
is, like, so many terminals have exactly the opposite problem. Like, you bring up settings on, Ghosty, which is the one I use, and it literally just pops up your editor with the config file, and you're like, that's a crappy interface for like editing, and it's like YAML file, and you're like, I don't even know what is available, and it starts off blank, and you're like, wait, what?
No sensible defaults, no nothing.
No nothing. Like, oh, I just want to change the font size.
I think
okay, good luck with that.
I think VS Code started that trend because their config files are all just text files. But in VS Code, they're heavily commented, and so you're not just thrown into the deep end.
You can change it with they have a UI.
That's true. There is a UI. I think it's based off your settings, whether the preference is open in their little editor or just the raw JSON files behind it.
Yeah, but that was interesting. We'll see what happens with Warp going forward. It'll be cool to see because I think that's the thing that OpenAI has struggled with the most, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, because I do not use it as much, that it just doesn't have the same level of polish or accuracy, I guess, as Claude Code. And it has not been nearly as ubiquitous for developers wanting to use it or choosing to use it.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
Claude Code is the best harness today, and I think OpenAI is chasing it, and this is just their way of throwing out more ideas, more experiments, and presumably things that work they'll try to funnel into Codex to compete.
Yeah, I think for a while the OpenAI supposition was that like there's more to life than just coding, and we're gonna go and give people like real people, not real, I guess, whatever, like non-techies, access to AI. Where Claude is Anthropic's definitely leaned heavily into the development space, and they've got a market there. That market keeps paying the bills, whereas with OpenAI, the consumer market has been, if not just kind of like meh about AI, actively hostile towards AI. I mean, it's bad out there, man. I talk to like regular people at parties. I don't even mention AI anymore because people are pissed about this stuff.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up our main news for this week, but I know that we have some lightning news, so let's get into that. All right. Who wants to start us off for that?
I can start because I've got a super quick one. Node 26 is out. And the main feature in Node 26 is the temporal API, which is the basically more modern replacement for date that does a bunch of more feature-rich date and time type of stuff, is now enabled by default in Node 26. And then the other thing is that this is the first release that uses Node's new release procedures that we talked about on an earlier episode of the show. But essentially, they're doing away with the every other release being called LTS. So the way this is going to work is Node 26 is now the, quote, current release. And then in October, it will be deemed the LTS release. And then all other releases are going to work like that moving forward. So what that means is if you've been dying to have temporal in your Node apps, you could update and try that out today. And if not, if you're like most people, then presumably just let this cook for 6 more months. And then in October, when it turns LTS, maybe bump up your version numbers in your projects then.
Is Node still going to keep with do they do the twice a year release schedule, or is theirs just a once a year update?
I think moving forward, it's going to be once a year.
Okay.
A new one will become current. So next May or whatever, Node 27 will be current. And then Node 27 will be LTS next October. I think that's their plan moving forward.
Going to the Apple model.
Yep. Because it's also, 26 for 2026. Yeah. All that stuff too. So.
Okay, cool. Nice. All right.
Lucky how that happened.
I know. Apple started it and everybody just kind of followed suit.
And Node was just like in this position where it's just like, oh, yeah, this just happily happens for us because
exactly. They just happened to be on 25 at the time. Like, what do you know? Why don't?
What a happy accident.
Whoops.
Oh, well, something that I wanted to talk about that was making me happy this week, and I don't know if either of you have stumbled across it in your ChatGPT usage, is that apparently ChatGPT has been obsessed with goblins in its last few instances.
I saw this headline.
That's awesome.
I don't get it, and I've not run across any goblin obsession personally. So
I don't use ChatGPT directly, so I haven't heard about this, but I love it. I love everything about it.
Yeah. So here's the story. So the new Codex model 5.5 has been, I think it's either out or it's coming out really soon. But anyway, there was a strict system prompt in it that the internet saw and started this whole thing to stop bringing up goblins, gremlins, trolls, ogres, pigeons, and raccoons. And then in quotes, so this is from the prompt, unless it is absolutely and unambiguously relevant to the user's query. That is in the newest model of Codex. And
this is awesome. So awesome.
So the way that this was first identified was GPT 5.1 back in the day. And it said by GPT, it was they started seeing references to these things, trolls, goblins, gremlins, etc. And then by GPT 5.4, what they had dubbed creature language was showing up overwhelmingly in traffic from users who had selected ChatGPT's nerdy persona preset.
Okay.
But what is weird is that for whatever reason, even though the nerdy persona was getting most of the references to these animals and things like that, the model was getting a higher and higher score every time it called something a gremlin. And since it chases higher scores, more things became goblins, and then suddenly that got rolled into its supervised fine-tuning data for the larger ChatGPT model. And the tick became a default behavior of the underlying system.
I love it.
It's great.
Me too. Yeah. So it just kind of like got rolled in. It kept getting rewarded for using this. And an audit of GPT 5.5 uncovered that raccoons, trolls, and ogres are just like scattered throughout the training data and the things that get regularly sent back to users. So as soon as that got released and employees started messing with it, they immediately noticed the goblins. They wrote in this strict prompt to keep the goblin talk to a minimum. But if you do want to unleash goblin mode within your own ChatGPT, there is a bash command that you can use that will disable goblin suppression mode if you want it.
I do like when these companies can not take themselves too seriously for a bit. I mean, this is why Buddies and Claude Code were so fun, and taking a minute to just have fun with the ridiculousness of the modern world and all these tools we're dealing with. It's just cool. So props to the OpenAI team for just not trying to silently kill this and to instead just write a fun blog post about this, because
yeah, it's harmless, it's funny, it's interesting about how training data gets rewarded, and too much. There was apparently too much weight on it for the nerdy preset, and it just proliferated throughout the code base.
And I never did. Either of you set a preset? I never did that. I just left whatever the default was.
I didn't know that I didn't really notice that they were a thing, to be honest.
I remember when they first talked about when they came out, but I never felt the great need to mess with that. I'm cool with the default experience.
Yeah, my Dungeon Master came out with like a personality for GPT that would be like could answer questions about the adventure and blah 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 blah. But that
might have been the preset actually.
That's it. There
it
is.
Had the most
I think you found that's
the initial one. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go off on a quick tangent here. Like, I'm really old, and like, I was watching my kid give a lecture yesterday, and the topic of Apple came up, and people were talking about how elitist Apple was. The phones are elitist, the computers are elitist, and I'm like, kind of like, okay, I guess, is that the public perception of Apple now? And thinking about like when I grew up, like the Apple I and the Apple II, and this was like, these guys are breaking the mold for like giving consumers like this amazing stuff, and the personal computer, right, which is a groundbreaking thing. So it and seeing the perception back then and now, it's just like, wow, I can't believe how things have changed. And I kept thinking to myself, if I was trying to explain to somebody back in those days, like I time travel back and I'm sitting at the kitchen table and we're talking about like what the world was, they'd be thinking about a personal computer, and I'd be sitting here thinking like, okay, so we live in this world where there are these AI agents that code for us, and they're obsessed with goblins, and it's like, how would I even, what? Like, there's like, I don't know.
You in your time capsule, you could travel back with just a printout of this story with a headline, "Where the Goblins Came From," and then you try to make any sense of it. It's like, this is what 2026 is like.
Yeah. And they'd just be like, can I take an alternate timeline, please? Like just go someplace where AIs aren't like, because that's the thing. Like the common perception of AI was like this, like, thing that would like, I don't know, maybe somewhere in the weird Jetsons future kind of thing. And here it is. It's realized. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. It's obsessed with goblins. Like, what is going on? Oh my God.
It is funny because I remember growing up, and I grew up mostly in late 80s, 90s. And I remember when my parents telling stories of the 60s when they were growing up and thinking like, wow, the world's changed a lot. I don't think I'll ever see that level. As a kid, right? The world seemed fundamentally different.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I saw the internet come out, and now I've seen AI come out and the smartphone. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to imagine even just how much those things alone have changed the world. It's crazy.
It's I mean, it's shocking sometimes even to watch television shows that were from 10, 15 years ago and see everybody's using flip phones. Nobody has any sort of tracking or internet access. The internet barely figures into the show's plot most of the time. And to think today how much of a crutch that is for pretty much every show. There's some, technology wizards. There's all
you
this
gotta have
tech
you gotta have the technobabble wizards.
that just plugs the subplot holes that the writers left in it. But it's just like that wasn't there even 15 years ago.
Yeah.
They had
Or it
to
creates
be more
levels.
creative.
Because you have to find a way to make the main characters all lose their phones or something like that. Because otherwise the phones are like the great, like, do they just text each other like, hey, I'm getting kidnapped, whatever, here I am, send my location, whatever, like, okay.
Drop a pin. Yeah, we all know where you are. Yeah. There's no phone service. Yeah, that's the only thing.
Exactly. Just happens.
As a big
cell
fan
network is
of
down, jamming.
It's a big fan of murder mysteries. They've kind of, in a way, made that genre way more challenging to write about because cell phones get you solve so many mysteries immediately. So it has to be, there's things like, oh, but we're going on an island retreat sort of deal. Like that's a common thing now, or some remote cottage in the wilderness, or you've got to have some way to make cell phones not immediately solve the plot.
Right. But I mean, even when you're on a boat now or you're on a train, there's Wi-Fi everywhere. You're not even disconnected on those things any longer.
Nope.
So often it's the bad guy can track us on the phone. Therefore, we have to pitch the phone into the river. That was that was the contrition in this Idris Elba John Cena movie we watched a couple days ago. It was like, they're tracking us. Gotta get rid of the phone.
Gotta get rid of your phones. Yeah. But it's goblins. Goblins are 2026's Achilles heel.
And yes, let this thing take care of all your medical records and decide your war plans for you. This is and maybe your war plans will include goblins.
Yeah. Or your health plan.
Or your health. Exactly. Yeah. Are you suffering from goblins? Because nobody reads this stuff. Nobody would read the patient intake panel now includes goblins in it, and the nurse is going through line by line. They're like, okay, let's talk about the goblin issue, and like what?
Yeah.
Wait, what? Everybody around is like, goblins.
All right. Well, on that note of goblins in the machine, let's talk about what's actually making us happy this week. Okay, TJ, what's making you happy?
Well, I have a tradition in this segment of the show to take one of either your recommendation or Jack's recommendation about 1 to 2 years after you initially make it. So on episode 76, I looked it up before this, Paige recommended The Lies of Locke Lamora, which is a fantasy novel, kind of a mystery novel. It's kind of a fun read, and I read it this week, or at least I've got like 2 hours left, so immediately after we're done recording this podcast, I'm going to be listening to the end of it. But it's a very fun story. It's set in this fantasy world that's kind of reminiscent of Venice, but in like a medieval Venice, I would say. And our main character is a thief, and basically the plot goes back between his childhood, and we see how he kind of became what he was, and his modern day scheming, and hijinks ensue. And it's a very fun world. It's a fun book. I think my only downside out of it is quite a long book, so it took me a while to get into it. It's something like a 24-hour audiobook. And then also I was going to say the audiobook is excellent. It is extremely well narrated. So I had both. I started on the ebook and I was kind of going slow. And then once I got to the audiobook, I just thought the narration is really good. So it's a pretty good fit for this story. So
yeah.
Yep. So recommended though. It's part of a series, but it's a series that the guy behind it, I think there's 3 books out now, and then he's kind of stalled from there.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Another one of those.
Game of Thrones from.
It's another one of those. My wife said it's worth listening to all 3, but that the first is definitely the best if you just do one. So I'm starting there, and
That's a
then
common
I'll
problem
see.
as well. Yeah.
Mhm.
You get their really tight first novel, and then you kind of get a little wordy and a little more wordy. Now you got more like random characters of service and stuff. The fans are like, "Oh, we need more of that guy." You're like, whatever.
Wasn't supposed to be a main character.
This random guy cleaning up poop in the stall, like, "Oh, we love that guy."
Game of Thrones, though, is the ultimate example because the middle Game of Thrones books are quite literally the best books I've ever read. They're absolutely incredible. And then it's amazing how quickly it goes off the rails to the point where the last book that George R. R. Martin wrote, to me, it was unreadable. I could barely finish it because you're just reading about nonsense. Nothing is happening. It's just crazy. It's crazy how quickly that story just went off the rails. So
Yeah.
Similar
wish
experience
that
with Frank
he would-
Herbert.
With Dune.
Yeah.
I really wish George R. R. Martin would just hand the book over to somebody else and let them actually finish it. Just like give him the cliff notes. He obviously did because he gave it HBO the cliff notes for finishing the series in TV. Just let somebody else write it, man. If you're not going to, don't just leave us halfway finished.
yeah,
Really? He gave I never heard that he gave them the Cliff Notes version because it's like really the whole idea is Bran.
I'm pretty sure that he
Bran
did.
wins the Game of Thrones.
I doubt that he gave them tons of detail because that doesn't seem to be his style, but I'm pretty sure that he gave them the rough sketch of what was supposed to happen, which, I mean, if it does, everybody's going to hate the book. Maybe that's why he's
Right?
not finished it and released it, but
Yeah.
but still, just be done with it.
Yes.
Let's move
or
on.
just give it to another author and let the author take it where they want it to
Right,
take it.
exactly.
Also,
Hey, and here's the non-Bran version.
yeah.
Yeah. Just give it to Brandon Sanderson. That guy will knock it out in 4 months and it'll be done.
Yeah. Or Claude. I mean,
Or Claude.
Hey, or give it you got to give it to GPT because GPT's got the goblin thing going on, and this
Yeah,
would be
yeah,
a venting
You're right.
for its goblin.
There'll be a goblin
tendencies.
arc. Yeah.
Suddenly there would be this whole like Goblin King thing going on. Yeah, let's go. Lean into it. I've asked for it now.
All right. Well, in addition to that, Jack, what else is making you happy this week?
Space guns is making me happy this week. Who knew? Sci-fi guns. So my next door neighbor is a drug rep. That's his deal, and whatever. Just kind of and then you wouldn't, and a sports buff. And so neither of these things is really any big selling point for me. But like we bonded somehow over our love of like obscure sci-fi, and so he found out that I was 3D printing, and he was like, you know what? I really want to make, like Han Solo's gun from like, print it out and like have it, so if I go to like Comic-Con, I can have like Han Solo's gun or whatever. And so I did that. And now we've got like, I've given him like 3 or 4. And just yesterday he came over and he showed me how, and what he does is he then paints them and dresses them.
Mm-hmm.
And so he just came over with his latest accomplishment yesterday, which was Boba Fett's. It's a big rifle, actually. It thing's huge. Like it's a full-on like prop kind of deal. But his skill level on this has gone incredibly high. It was very but he's been watching videos and really getting into it, and like now he's like dropping them and seeing where they scuff, so that he can like buff up the scuffs and make it look like it's really weathered and stuff. This is like peak stuff here. I'm really impressed. I will put some, I'll take a photo of this thing. It's literally going to go up on the wall. I had no idea. Like he keeps kind of returning them to me like, hey, I'm like, but they're for you. Like,
yeah, what am I supposed to do?
Necessarily want like Boba Fett's rifle. I'm just kind of like, the printer wasn't doing anything. So I might as well print something for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, the kind of thing. But anyway, yes, it's been a fascinating journey, and to see him kind of develop his artistic skills around this is really cool.
I mean, this sounds like a business in the making.
It could be, he's kind of like, he's one of those guys where he's always got a deal for something. because he's a sales guy, right? You'd be like, oh, like he's doing some Lego kit or something like that. And you'd be like, hey, oh, that's really cool. And he's like, yeah, I paid like $20 for this. I got it off, like some guy went over to the mall and like, we paid him $20 for this out of the back of his car kind of thing. It's always that kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
And, so it actually surprises me that he hasn't come up with this, been like, okay, now I'm going to get a printer and I'm going to go fully and go automation with this, kind of thing.
Right. And just
But
show up at conventions with the little table at the artist's
yeah,
corner and be
yeah.
selling this stuff. I mean, people they're doing costumes and clothing. That could totally be part of this, all the accessories.
But he's got that thing that some people have that I really don't understand, which is this idea of like, I can't do tech. Like their mind just shuts off and they're like, oh, 3D printing. Whoa, I cannot do that. And it's like, actually, you kind of can't. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, Bamboo has like made this stuff really easy. You literally just like follow what few instructions there are to set the thing up. You plug it in, it connects to your network, you bring up the little app and you say, it's even on your phone, and you say, I want this thing, and like a couple hours later it says, boop, there it is. It's not that hard. Like, if you want to go and build your own designs, now that's a thing, right? You got to learn how to 3D model and blah, 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 blah. But if you just have like, you can just buy a design. Like, everything you see at the local farmer's market, it's like $12 for the design, and then they just print the heck out of it and sell them for $12 each. And if they sell one, they've recovered their money.
Well, that is very cool. You're gonna have to show us some pictures of these things because I'd love to see what they look like when they're all finished. All right.
Will do.
So what's making me happy is almost kind of, it's related to some of the stuff that we've talked about already, where the internet is slop and all the stuff that's on social media and YouTube is not very good for the vast majority of it. So I'm going to recommend a YouTube channel that I have not been watching it as much, but my husband has been super into it, and it's called The Corner Office on YouTube.
Okay.
And the story behind this guy, and now what he does is he talks to other people who are starting businesses or have started businesses and like how they did it. But this guy himself, the host, also has an entrepreneurial streak in him. So he has started a bunch of small businesses that some of them he sold, some of them he still runs. But for instance, one of them that's more recent is that he bought some land in Austin because he lives in Austin, Texas. He put up a big barn, essentially, or a big warehouse, made it into a pickleball court. And it's got air conditioning, it's got locks, so you just scan your phone or whatever to get in, and you've reserved time online to use the pickleball court, and there's, vending machines and facilities inside. So, and you just pay a monthly subscription, I think, to use it or to be a member of it. So it's that kind of thing where you don't need a lot of infrastructure or overhead or people. You just have to have an idea and some money to get you going. And so my husband is winding down a business that he and his dad have been running because his dad is ready to retire now. So he's kind of thinking about, what is my next move going to be? He's got all kinds of just random business experience. Like, the company that they're shutting down is a marine dredging company. But before that, he worked for a company or a business that did economic development. Before that, he was in business development sales for Starbucks coffee. So it's just kind of like general business is his purview. You tell him, I want to set this up, and he's like, all right, we can figure out how to do that kind of attitude. So he's been watching a lot of these things, and he's seen people who have started businesses that are like mulching in their local area and how they got themselves, out to the community and people started hiring them for these businesses. Or one guy does vending machines, and he goes and he has AI vending machines that can actually just, you open the door, all the cameras are watching where your hands are going to take things out, and charges you your credit card like that, or your Apple Pay. So it's just like all these different random businesses that people are coming up with, and they're sharing how they started them. And so it's really interesting to watch, just to see what kinds of weird things people have figured out they can turn into businesses with not a lot of, expertise or money or really anything, infrastructure in place. But yeah, if like Jack and like some of us, if you're like, I don't know if this software thing is really the thing that excites me anymore, or brings me the level of satisfaction that I thought, maybe you want to start your own business of some kind. It seems like people are coming up with lots of ideas, and there's a lot more opportunity to do this because of things like AI to help you build your website or help you market something or help you 3D print when you didn't know how to. So maybe there's something there.
I love that.
Yeah, and you'll have an edge on your competitors that are probably not tech savvy, because you'll know how to spin up a really good website and app if you need it, and all the stuff that goes around with that. And for anybody just searching on YouTube, I should say it's spelled Koerner for corner.
Oh, what?
I got confused at first because I looked up corner office and I got some like police chase something on YouTube. So corner is spelled not exactly how you expect. So probably click the link from the show notes to check it out.
But yeah,
it's just updated my wife, because every time she asks, what does Paige say? What does TJ say? What do you say? And so, yeah. But that's really cool. That is great.
Yeah. It's so interesting. It's just all these smaller, like localized business ideas, or a lot of them, they're just like to their city or their state or somewhere where they live, and they're doing these things. But yeah, it's super interesting to see how people are making jobs for themselves. And in this economy where nobody's job seems to be safe, if you're at a big company or a small company or anything, maybe that's not such a bad idea to have a startup idea in your back pocket.
Yeah, I was reading this interesting article by this guy who he was just going to Costco, just, doing the usual thing and going to Costco a lot. And he would notice that he would buy something one week and it would be half price the next week. And be like, oh, man, what's going on? And so he basically wrote an AI, had AI write a script to automate this. And now he basically gets a report and is like, okay, once you go in, here's the 5 different, because there's a price guarantee. It's like if the price drops within a month, you can get it. And he's able to just get little bits of extra cash out of this. And it's just like one of those things where it's like, oh, there you go. Little automation hacks like that. Really cool.
All right. Well, I think that is going to wrap us up for this week's episode. So thanks everybody for listening. If you want to come and talk to us, we have a Discord channel in the Blue Collar Coder Discord that's really fun. A lot of people are chiming in there. And we're on the socials if you want to find us there as well. So thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah. See everybody.
See everybody.